Look, after 22 years around repair bays, I have learned to distrust one sentence more than almost any other. This thing will run forever. Nothing runs forever. Not a Toyota, not a Lexus, not a hybrid with a spotless service book and one careful owner. 300,000 miles is not a feature printed on the window sticker. It is an outcome. The vehicle has to start with the right bones, and then the owner has to avoid 20 years of bad decisions. So the title of this video is very deliberate. These are not 3 hybrid SUVs guaranteed to reach 300,000 miles. They are the 3 with the best evidence-based shot. That is a much stronger claim than internet folklore, and a much more honest one than pretending a new 2026 vehicle has already proved something it physically has not had time to prove. Here is the framework I am using. I call it the 3-gate test. Gate 1 is survival evidence, not a 5-star review, not a 90-day quality score. I want to see whether the nameplate has actually accumulated serious mileage in the real world. Gate 2 is mechanical conservatism. I generally want a naturally aspirated engine, a mature hybrid layout, and as few high-stress performance parts as the buyer can reasonably live without. Gate 3 is owner behavior. Cooling airflow, oil, coolant, corrosion, tires, and service records. A great powertrain can survive a long time. A neglected great powertrain can still become scrap. And the data needs context. Consumer Reports said on December 4, 2025, that conventional hybrids in its owner survey had 15% fewer problems on average than gas-only vehicles. But J.D. Power's U.S. Vehicle Dependability Study, released February 12, 2026, found 213 problems per 103-year-old hybrids versus 198 for gas vehicles. That sounds contradictory until you look at the methods. Consumer Reports surveys a broad range of model years and problem areas. J.D. Power's 2026 study focused on original owners of 2023 models after 3 years, and it found that infotainment and phone integration were major trouble spots across the industry. That is why I am not using one score as a magic answer. The backbone of this countdown is IC Cars' 2025 Longest-Lasting Cars study. According to IC Cars in 2025, its analysts examined almost 400 million vehicles and modeled the probability of each nameplate surviving to at least 250,000 miles. That study did not measure 300,000 miles, and it did not certify an exact 2026 vehicle. It measured the historical survival pattern behind the badge. Only 7 hybrids had enough data to appear in the dedicated hybrid table. 3 of them were SUVs. Those are the 3 in this video. We are counting down from number 3 to number 1, and number 1 has the strongest 250,000-mile survival signal by a very wide margin. But every one of these comes with a warning, because the difference between built well and still running at 300,000 is usually the owner standing between those 2 points. Number 3 is the 2026 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. The number that gets it into this video comes from IC Cars' 2025 study. The RAV4 Hybrid had a 7.9% modeled chance of reaching 250,000 miles. That was about 1.8 times the average for SUVs in the same analysis. Now, I want to be fair here. Within the 7-model hybrid table, the average was 9.6%, so the RAV4 Hybrid sat below that hybrid average. That is exactly why it is number 3 rather than number 1. It has a meaningful high-mileage record, but the other 2 vehicles in this countdown have stronger survival evidence. There is another limitation that matters even more. The 2026 RAV4 begins a new generation. The old RAV4s that created the historical result are not identical to the one you can buy today. Consumer Reports' 2026 reliability page, accessed August 6, 2026, says it expects the new RAV4 to be more reliable than the average new car. But it also says that prediction is based on the previous generation and Toyota's broader brand history. Read that carefully. It is a positive forecast. It is not 300,000-mile proof of the new generation. Mechanically, though, I understand why long-term owners are interested. Toyota's October 22, 2025 launch information says the regular 2026 hybrid makes 226 combined horsepower with front-wheel drive and 236 with all-wheel drive, while the front-drive version carries a manufacturer-estimated 41 mile-per-gallon combined rating. More important for this conversation, Toyota stayed with a naturally aspirated hybrid strategy rather than turning the mainstream RAV4 into a small turbo engine chasing a big torque number. And Toyota's November 4, 2025 technical explainer for one of its current 2.5-liter hybrids lays out the company's underlying transaxle recipe: 2 motor generators, a planetary gear, and a reduction gear. That is why I keep telling buyers that a Toyota eCVT is not the same animal as a belt-driven conventional CVT. The word CVT is on both, but the internal job is being done differently. From a mechanic's point of view, that architecture removes several wear patterns I normally watch in a traditional automatic. There are no stepped gear changes being commanded all day in traffic, and there is no conventional launch clutch slipping every time the vehicle moves away from a stop. That does not make the unit immortal. It does mean Toyota is starting from a layout with a long service history and fewer familiar failure points. The battery warranty also gives you a useful floor, not a lifespan promise. Toyota's U.S. Electrified Vehicle Warranty page, accessed August 6, 2026, lists 10 years or 150,000 miles of limited coverage for the hybrid battery and 8 years or 100,000 miles for specified hybrid drive components. A warranty tells you when the manufacturer is financially responsible under its terms. It does not tell you the battery expires the next morning, and it definitely does not promise the pack will reach 300,000 miles. Here is the part that would make me cautious. This is a first-year redesign with a new electronic architecture, new software, and Toyota Safety Sense 4.0. The gasoline-electric concept is mature. The complete 2026 vehicle is new. Consumer Reports reported on June 2, 2026, that the RAV4 was transacting at roughly 4% above sticker nationwide at that time, and its testers also criticized the hard cabin materials and a center console that crowded some drivers' knees. Those complaints are not engine failures, but they matter to a 20-year purchase. A seat that annoys you at mile 20 will not improve at mile 200,000. And paying over sticker creates a different kind of durability problem. You are upside down before the machine has had a chance to prove itself. So who should still buy this one? The 2026 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid makes sense for the buyer who needs compact SUV space, expects to drive enough miles for fuel savings to matter, and plans to keep the vehicle long after the loan disappears. It especially suits the owner who wants the regular hybrid rather than the more powerful plug-in version, and who is willing to accept that the exact 2026 generation is still building its own record. Here is how I would configure it for a 300,000-mile attempt. I would buy a mainstream trim. I would avoid paying thousands for the largest wheels and every electronic option on the sheet. I would choose front-wheel drive if climate and terrain genuinely allow it, because every extra system needs to justify itself over 2 decades. In snow country, take the all-wheel drive and maintain it properly. Safety is worth more than theoretical simplicity. Then I would treat heat management like religion. Keep the hybrid battery cooling intake clear. Do not pack blankets, pet hair, or cargo against vents. Follow the oil interval for the way the vehicle is actually used, not the fantasy version of your driving. Short cold trips, dust, towing, and long idling are not normal service just because they happen every day. And I would keep every invoice. At 180,000 miles, the best RAV4 hybrid is not necessarily the one with the prettiest paint. It is the one whose owner can show you what happened at 30,000, 60,000, 100,000, and 150,000. High mileage survival is rarely one heroic repair. It is a chain of boring decisions nobody notices when they are done on time. The RAV4 Hybrid earns number 3 because the nameplate has already shown above-average odds of surviving 250,000 miles. The basic hybrid formula remains mechanically conservative, and the 2026 model is efficient enough to make very high annual mileage financially realistic. But I would not call the new generation proven yet. I would call it the most promising compact choice in this specific 3-vehicle group, and I would let somebody else pay the first-year markup. Number 2 is the 2026 Lexus RX 350h, and I am being very specific about the badge. I mean the RX 350h, the regular non-plug-in hybrid. I am not automatically extending this recommendation to the turbocharged RX 500h or the RX 450h Plus plug-in. Those are different powertrains with different hardware, different heat loads, and different long-term questions. According to the IC Cars 2025 Longest-Lasting Cars study, the Lexus RX Hybrid had a 17% modeled chance of reaching 250,000 miles. That was 4 times the average SUV in the study, and placed the RX Hybrid second among all hybrids with enough data to qualify. That is serious evidence. It is also evidence that needs an asterisk the size of a shop manual. The current RX 350H is not mechanically identical to the older RX hybrids that built much of the reputation. Lexus's 2026 product information, updated June 19, 2026, says the RX 350H combines a 2.5-liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder with electric drive for 246 total system horsepower and 233 pound-feet of torque. It uses a 216-cell nickel-metal hydride battery and standard all-wheel drive. Older RX 450H models used a 3.5-liter V6 hybrid system. Lexus documented that configuration in its August 19, 2011 technical release. So when someone says, the RX hybrid is proven to 250,000 miles, the honest response is, the RX hybrid nameplate has strong evidence, but the current 4-cylinder RX 350H has not personally accumulated the same decades of data as the earlier V6 version. That does not remove it from the list, it changes the confidence level. Consumer Reports 2026 RX Hybrid Reliability page, accessed August 6, 2026, predicts about average reliability for the current model based on data from the 2023 through 2025 versions. About average is not bad in a modern luxury SUV. It is simply less glowing than the historical RX reputation. On the other hand, J.D. Power's February 12, 2026 dependability study ranked Lexus highest among premium brands for the 4th consecutive year, at 151 problems per 100 vehicles. That study covered 2023 models after 3 years, not 300,000-mile survivors, but it tells you Lexus is still controlling day-to-day ownership problems better than the other premium brands in that dataset. This is where the RX cuts both ways. The luxury equipment is part of why people buy it. The quiet cabin, power features, large displays, driver assistance hardware, premium lighting, and available 21-inch wheels make the vehicle feel expensive. They also create more opportunities for age-related cost than you get in a simpler mainstream SUV. Lexus's June 2026 pricing lists the RX 350H standard at $55,075 including delivery, and upper trims move well past $60,000. That price does not buy eternal life. It buys a better ownership environment around a Toyota-derived hybrid foundation. If my goal were 300,000 miles, I would resist the temptation to load it like a technology demonstration. The standard or premium grade would be my starting point. I would choose the smaller available wheel package because sidewall is cheap suspension and 20 years of potholes are undefeated. I would rather replace an ordinary tire than straighten an expensive wheel and diagnose a vibration every spring. The other reason I like the RX 350H is the engine choice. Lexus could have made every hybrid RX a high-output turbo model. It did not. The 350H uses the naturally aspirated 2.5-liter engine and an electric rear axle for all-wheel drive. In my shop-minded ranking, that is the calmer, long-term bet inside the RX lineup. Do not mishear me. Naturally aspirated does not mean maintenance-free. The engine still has coolant, ignition components, pumps, seals, sensors, and an exhaust system. The hybrid side still has a battery, inverter, electric motors, cooling paths, high-voltage wiring, and control modules. Luxury trim adds powered hardware all around it. The point is not that there is nothing to fail. The point is that the core propulsion system is not chasing 366 horsepower through a turbocharger and a 6-speed automatic, the way the RX 500H does, according to Lexus's June 2026 specifications. For a buyer prioritizing lifespan over acceleration, the 350H is the version that makes the most sense. Now for the ownership warning nobody likes to hear. A Lexus can be reliable and still be expensive when neglected. At 120,000 miles, a premium badge does not make old rubber young again. Control arm bushings, engine mounts, dampers, wheel bearings, cooling hoses, and 12-volt batteries age whether the powertrain is healthy or not. Owners sometimes postpone those jobs because the vehicle still starts every morning. Then 5 medium-sized repairs arrive in the same year, and suddenly they blame the SUV for falling apart. That is not always a design failure. Sometimes it is deferred maintenance collecting interest. Who should buy the RX 350H? Buy it if you want a 2-row luxury SUV, you value quiet and seat comfort on long drives, and you are prepared to maintain a $55,000 vehicle like a $55,000 vehicle after the warranty ends. It is especially compelling for someone cross-shopping European luxury hybrids but unwilling to gamble on a more complex performance powertrain. Do not buy it merely because you heard the word Lexus and assumed every repair would cost Corolla money. Parts pricing, labor rates, tires, body components, lighting, and electronics can still punish a careless owner. Reliability reduces the frequency of surprises. It does not turn premium components into discount parts. For a serious 300,000-mile attempt, I would do 3 things from day one. First, I would keep the cooling passages clean, including the battery intake. Second, I would service fluids based on time and use, not only dashboard reminders. Third, I would fix small suspension and cooling system problems before they begin damaging tires, overheating components, or stressing neighboring parts. And I would document everything, because a complete service history is worth more than a salesperson saying, "These run forever." The Lexus RX 350H takes number 2 because its nameplate has more than double the RAV4 hybrid's modeled 250,000-mile probability. Lexus continues to perform strongly in 3-year dependability studies, and the 350H uses the least aggressive hybrid powertrain in the RX family. Its weakness is not the old RX record. Its weakness is assuming that old record automatically proves the exact 2026 configuration. It does not. The evidence is strong enough to call this one a very good bet. It is not strong enough to stop inspecting, servicing, and budgeting like an adult. And number 1, the 2026 Toyota Highlander Hybrid. This is where the survival data stops being merely good and starts looking unusual. In iSeeCar's 2025 analysis, the Highlander Hybrid had a 31% modeled chance of reaching 250,000 miles. That was 7.2 times the average SUV in the study and the highest result of any hybrid vehicle in the dedicated hybrid ranking. 31% does not mean your Highlander has a 1 in 3 warranty to reach 250,000 miles. It means the historical pattern behind this nameplate was dramatically stronger than the market average after iSeeCars modeled almost 400 million vehicles. And unlike the brand new RAV4 generation, the 2026 Highlander Hybrid is not starting from a clean sheet. Toyota's September 5, 2025 model year announcement describes the 2026 Hybrid as a continuation of the existing 3-row SUV, now with standard electronic all-wheel drive across the hybrid range. Toyota lists a manufacturer-estimated 35 miles per gallon combined, seating for up to 8, and a 3,500-pound maximum tow rating. The Hybrid XLE started at $47,020 before processing and handling. This matters because continuity is valuable when you are making a lifespan argument. The closer the vehicle you are buying is to the hardware already generating owner data, the less guesswork you are doing. It is still not proof of 300,000 miles for one exact VIN. It is a more direct bridge from historical evidence to a 2026 purchase. Consumer Reports' 2026 Highlander Hybrid Reliability page, accessed August 6, 2026, says it expects the vehicle to be more reliable than the average new car, based on owner data from the 2023, 2024, and 2025 model years. That is the kind of overlap I want to see. Long horizon survival data from iSeeCars, recent owner survey confidence from Consumer Reports, and a 2026 vehicle that has not thrown away the basic formula to chase a trend. Now let me tell you why the Highlander Hybrid is not automatically the right answer for everybody. It is expensive. The third row is more useful for children than for adults on long trips. And 3,500 pounds of towing capacity is enough for a small trailer, not an invitation to spend 15 years pulling at the limit through mountain heat. If your real life involves maximum payload, maximum towing, oversized tires, and dirt road abuse, you are not using the vehicle in the gentle duty cycle that helps create beautiful longevity statistics. This is the family mileage champion, not a disguised heavy-duty truck. It is also standard all-wheel drive for 2026. I like the traction, but I want owners to understand that standard does not mean free forever. You still have rear electric drive hardware, additional cooling and control systems, and 4 tires that need to remain closely matched in size and wear. Rotate them. Check pressures. Replace a damaged tire intelligently rather than mixing one brand new tire with 3 nearly worn ones and hoping the system never notices. Now we get to the part that actually decides whether this vehicle sees 300,000. Toyota's official 2026 Highlander Hybrid Warranty and Maintenance Guide, accessed August 6, 2026, lays out a schedule most owners will never read. In that 2026 guide, the hybrid battery cooling intake filter is inspected at 5,000-mile steps and cleaned at 20,000-mile intervals. The same guide calls for engine oil and filter replacement at 10,000 miles or 12 months under normal use, but every 5,000 miles or 6 months for repeated short trips below freezing or for dirt and dusty road use. That is not trivia. That is Toyota telling you that operating conditions change the maintenance requirement. The guide also lists the first engine coolant replacement at 100,000 miles or 10 years, with shorter intervals afterward, and it brings inverter coolant and spark plugs into the long-term schedule. Those are the unglamorous services that separate a healthy 200,000-mile hybrid from one that overheats, misfires, or arrives on a tow truck with 3 overdue jobs at once. Notice what I did not say. I did not say to replace every fluid every 20,000 miles because a service advisor printed a red box on an inspection sheet. Follow the factory schedule, inspect the vehicle, and adjust for real operating conditions. Over-maintenance wastes money. Under-maintenance wastes vehicles. For a 300,000-mile Highlander hybrid, I would think in 4 phases. From 0 to 60,000 miles, your job is to establish the record. Use the correct oil. Rotate tires. Keep the battery intake clean. Fix alignment problems before a set of tires becomes evidence. Do not modify the cooling system or install cheap electrical accessories that turn the wiring harness into a science experiment. From 60,000 to 120,000, start paying attention to age as well as mileage. Brake fluid absorbs moisture, rubber hardens, small seepage deserves investigation. The engine may run less often than it would in a non-hybrid, but when it does run, it still needs clean oil, correct coolant, and an ignition system capable of lighting the mixture properly. From 120,000 to 200,000, budget for wear instead of acting betrayed by it. Dampers, bushings, bearings, mounts, pumps, and 12-volt batteries are not moral failures. Replace what is worn before it damages what is still good. A tired shock can destroy tires. A leaking water pump can become an overheating event. A weak 12-volt battery can create a dashboard full of misleading warnings. From 200,000 onward, condition matters more than the badge. Oil consumption, coolant loss, corrosion, battery balance, suspension play, and high-voltage isolation all deserve real diagnosis. At that mileage, Toyota reliability is not a substitute for measurements. Here is the hybrid battery conversation. Toyota's US warranty page, accessed August 6, 2026, gives the Highlander hybrid battery the same 10-year or 150,000-mile limited coverage used across Toyota's current hybrid lineup. That is excellent protection by industry standards. But a 300,000-mile owner is asking the battery to travel twice the warranty mileage. Some packs will. Some will need repair or replacement before that. No honest mechanic can look at a brand new vehicle and promise which individual battery you will own 15 years from now. Climate, cooling airflow, time, use, cell variation, and maintenance all matter. That does not make the hybrid a bad long-term purchase. It means you include a possible battery event in a 20-year budget, just as a conventional owner should include transmissions, alternators, starters, fuel systems, and other major repairs in theirs. Longevity is not the absence of repair. It is the ability to justify repair because the rest of the vehicle is still sound. Who should buy the Highlander hybrid? The best owner is a family or high-mileage driver who needs 3-row flexibility, spends a lot of time on normal roads, and intends to keep the SUV for well over 10 years. Highway commuters, airport drivers, and households that pile on steady mileage without heavy towing are the use cases that make sense to me. The wrong owner is the person who buys it for the reputation, skips maintenance because Toyotas do not break, then sells it at 110,000 miles with dirty cooling vents, mismatched tires, and no service history. The Highlander hybrid earns number 1 because the historical survival evidence is not close. It leads the hybrid field in the strongest large-scale 250,000-mile dataset I found. Current owner survey expectations remain above average, and the 2026 model preserves a mature, efficiency-focused formula rather than resetting the clock with a complete redesign. Could it reach 300,000 miles? Yes, it has a credible shot. Will everyone do it? Absolutely not. But if you forced me to choose one new hybrid SUV in 2026, maintain it from day one, and bet my own money on seeing a 3 followed by 5 zeros, this is the key I would take off the board. Here is the honest conclusion. A 300,000-mile vehicle is built twice. The factory builds it once, and the owner builds it again through thousands of cold starts, oil checks, tire rotations, inspections, repairs, and decisions about whether a small warning gets handled today or ignored until it becomes a large one. The data in this video supports a hierarchy. It does not support a guarantee. The 250,000-mile study tells us which nameplates have survived at unusual rates. Recent reliability surveys tell us whether current owners are seeing trouble. Factory specifications tell us how much the 2026 hardware changed. Maintenance guides tell us what the manufacturer expects the owner to do. None of those sources can inspect the exact vehicle you are about to buy. So when you shop, do not only ask, which model lasts the longest? Ask, which version is simplest for my needs? Which one can I afford to maintain after the warranty? And am I really the kind of owner who keeps records for 15 years? That last question eliminates more 300,000-mile vehicles than the badge ever will. And I am curious about your answer. At 200,000 miles, would you rather own a basic trim with complete service records or a fully loaded trim with a beautiful interior and 5 missing years of maintenance history?